This video is sponsored by JLC 3DP. More about them later. You know that one deep, dark corner of the shop you avoid making eye contact with? The one filled with stuff you swear you're going to use, maybe even tomorrow? Yeah, some of it has been there longer than you've been telling your spouse you'll get that thing done for them. But hey, who cares? Your friends call you a hoarder, your loved ones have invited specialists to stage interventions, but they don't get it. Because the moment they need a very specific, obscure, oddly shaped part, boom, you're the hero. But you know what isn't cool? When something you actually use regularly ends up buried in that crap.
That's not cool, man.
So today, we're gonna fix that and finally give my tracksaw a proper home. Now, I love 3D printing, and lately it has started creeping deeper and deeper into the woodworking world. So much that a bunch of bigger creators have started designing, selling, and using printable jigs and shop accessories. So I thought, why not test some of them out while doing this build? Let's see if these woodworkers turned influencers can actually design a decent 3D print, or if they've just slapped their name on a cube and called it a day. And the first print I used for this project came from Travis, the guy behind Shop Nation. Okay, wait. Before I get into telling you all about Travis, a quick side note. Now I know not everybody has a 3D printer at home, but that doesn't mean you can't use 3D prints in your shop. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, JLC 3DP, 3D printing is accessible to literally anyone. The process is super simple. You just upload your model, choose from a bunch of different materials like PETG, PLA, ABS, metal. In fact, I used JLC 3DP in a previous video for some feet for an outdoor bench, and honestly, the quality blew me away. They can process industrial grade prints in as fast as 24 hours with shipping options that can land at your door in as fast as 2 days. And here's the kicker. JLC 3DP printing starts as little as 30 cents per part. And new users can get up to $70 in coupons by using the link down in the description. So if you've been thinking, well, I'd print that if I had a 3D printer, stop it. Go check out JLC 3DP and bring that idea to life. All right, back to Travis and his immaculate shop that probably smells like lavender and productivity. Travis is a former engineer who turned his love for clean, optimized workshops into a YouTube channel, a full-blown 3D print farm, and a movement he calls Shop Greatness.
That's sick, man.
His stuff blends engineering precision with practical shop thinking, and this 1/24th scale shop prop kit is a perfect example of that. Now, he hosts most of his printable designs on Things. Some of them are members only. You can sign up for $5, $10, $25 a month to get a certain number of downloads. But a few, like this prop kit, are completely free. You just need to make an account or sign in with Google or something. The models are super well thought out. Most of them are split into multiple parts so you don't need supports, which is great because I hate printing supports more than I hate sanding end grain.
No! God, please, no! No!
He's got basic shop equipment modeled, table saw, joiner, dust collector, plus reference blocks like for 2 foot, 4 foot, and 6 foot spacing to help you plan your layout. They're not perfectly customized to your shop, but close enough to visualize things realistically. And that's exactly what I did, until I realized I had nowhere near enough space to build the new cabinet I was planning. So I pivoted and decided to repurpose this old radial arm saw cabinet instead. You know, the one buried under 3 years of regret and random clamps.
This place is a dump, Wang.
The only hiccup I had was with the little mini person model. Unless you add supports, it just peels off the bed. Still, this print saved me time, shop space, and probably a regret build. Solid win. And you can't beat the price. Once I figured out I couldn't build a new cabinet from scratch, I pivoted. I opened up Fusion 360 and designed an insert that would fit inside my old metal radial arm saw cabinet. The plan was to build it out of scrap plywood I had lying around, nothing fancy, just enough to get my track saw off the floor and out of the chaos zone. I ripped down the panels, slapped it together with pocket hole screws, and that's when I pulled out my second 3D print for the project. a corner clamp designed by Drew Witt from Whitworks. Now, if you don't know Drew, he's a former pastor turned woodshop content creator. He's best known for designing clever jigs, filming in an immaculate shop, and perhaps most ironically, reviewing every single tracksaw ever made. If there's a tracksaw on the market, Drew has cut plywood with it and looked serene while doing it. This clamp comes from a bundle he calls the STL Starter Pack for woodworkers, available on his site for $15 at the time of recording. And it's not just 1 or 2 prints, you get 15 designs over 65 STL files. I printed all of it in one go on my Anycubic Cobra Max. This was not my smartest moment.
You fool.
I had some adhesion issues, likely due to the long layer times and sheer size of the prints. That said, the clamp worked great during assembly. Now, I did run into one issue with Drew's roundover jig. It didn't print flat. It came out with a noticeable wobble, which I suspect was due to warping. But one thing I really appreciate since buying this bundle, Drew has updated the files twice, and both times I got an email with new versions. So major points to Drew for supporting his files after the sale. This is a good value for $15. Once I had the cabinet assembled and dry fit into the radial arm saw base, I had to wrestle it a bit. I pulled it back out and added 3/4 inch screws for some simple wood on wood drawer slides. Just good old fashioned plywood gliding on plywood. Cheap, easy, and it works. But speaking of drawers, or as Tamar says, draws, that brings us to the next 3D print, her drawer pull jig. Now, Tamar from 3x3 Custom is known for building jigs so polished and so perfectly engineered. They make the rest of us look like we're still taping rulers to things and calling it a system. Her drawer pull jig is available on her website, $8 at the time I bought it, and it includes 4 interchangeable insert shapes to trace out various integrated drawer pulls. Now, full transparency, I had no idea how to use this thing at first. The file doesn't come with instructions, and I thought it was going to be for recessed drawer pulls, not like cutout style finger pulls. So I had a brief existential moment, then found a video showing how it's supposed to work. I'll link it in the description in case you also look at this jig and go, what? Here's the deal. You mark the center of the drawer front, slide the proper insert into the jig. They snap in. It's really satisfying. And line it up using the built-in center marker. Then you trace the shape onto the drawer and rough cut the waist. I used a fret saw like an actual coping saw for some reason.
Why?
Once the bulk of the waist was gone, I clamped the jig back in place and used a flush trim bit to route the final profile. The bit followed the 3D print perfectly and gave me a super smooth finish. The only knock I have is the lack of documentation. And for $8, this thing saved me time, gave me a clean result, and saved me from having to design a custom jig of my own. So solid buy, even if it did expose my poor life choices involving coping saws.
Why?
So remember how this whole thing started with a track saw? Well, Festool track saws live in sustainers, and sustainers need somewhere to slide in and out if you want your storage to be anywhere close to functional. So for that, I turned to Eric Spenceley from Spenceley Design Co. Now, Eric is one of those guys who builds a beautiful cabinet, then casually mentions it only took him a couple of afternoons and a leftover pizza box for reference. He's a designer, a builder, a content machine, and known for his super clean builds, engaging tutorials, and thumbnails that are just vague enough to make you click. Eric has his own website where he sells both physical parts and STL files for his designs. In this case, I went with his Sustainer slide rails, available for $10 as a digital download, or if you don't want to burn 36 hours of your printer's life, you can buy physical rails for $30 a pair. Now, I got to give Eric props here. The download didn't just dump an STL file on my desktop and leave me wondering. It came with a clean PDF full of recommended print settings, wall counts, and fill percentages, even installation instructions. It really felt like buying a proper product, not just a file someone exported from Fusion and forgot about. Of course, I immediately ignored all of that.
Why are you the way that you are?
But I did end up printing 2 pairs, one in PLA and one in PETG. One problem though when I built the cabinet, I didn't really plan for sustainers or slides or anything, honestly. So to make these work, I had to model some quick spacers to get the rails positioned correctly. Not fancy, but they did the job. Install was straightforward. A few screws later, and I had a set of slides that kind of worked. The drawer moved, but not well. It felt stiff, like the sustainer was trying to break free, but hadn't done enough push-ups. After playing around with it a bit, I realized the screws were probably over-tightened. So a quick pass with a Phillips screwdriver to loosen them slightly made a pretty noticeable difference. But then I got bold. I grabbed my Super Lube.
What did he say?
It's a food-safe grease I use on my 3D printer rails, and applied the tiniest amount to the inside of the printed slide using a little brad nail as a grease wand. The difference was instant. It was like I installed drawer slides made of butter and optimism. With that, I finally had a working sustainer slide system, and it looked good and functioned well, just like I totally planned from the beginning. Moving on. To give the cabinet a more finished look, I decided to round over the outer edges of the face frame. For that, I turned to a free modular jig designed by Pierre, better known as the Swedish maker. Now, Pierre is sort of the Scandinavian king of minimalist design. His prints are sleek, efficient, and beautifully engineered. He's also 1/3 of the Three Northern Makers podcast, which he co-hosts with Steve Bell. And yes, if you've heard the show, the running joke is that Pierre just steals all of Steve's ideas and releases them as his own. So, not really sure who I'm supposed to thank for these prints. This roundover jig is one of several free downloads he offers on his printable page, and like most of his stuff, it's designed to be modular. Instead of printing a whole new jig every time, you just need to print different radius, and you just print the clamping base once. The print quality was excellent, and paired with a new white side flush trim bit, not sponsored, just a sucker for smooth edges, it left a clean, consistent, rounded edge that looks great. The design is simple, smart, and compact, exactly what you'd expect from Pierre. That compact size does come with a small downside. Depending on where I clamped it, the router would sometimes hit the clamp itself, preventing a full cut along the edge. Still, the jig worked great overall, especially for the price. Free! And since we're talking about Pierre, yes, I'm a top tier patron of his. And as part of that, he gave me a discount code for his website to download designs for free. And I downloaded the magnetic hose adapter. This one's particularly clever. The magnets are embedded mid-print, which means you pause your printer, drop the magnets in, and then resume. No messy glue, and no worrying about them popping out. Just solid, clicky satisfaction. I used it on my planer, my joiner, even some random blast gates around the shop. It prints clean, requires no supports, and works great for extending or quick swapping dust collection hoses. Pierre's print quality and attention to detail always shows, and this was no exception. I haven't found a print of his that isn't top quality. So, great job, Pierre. And that's it for the cabinet. It's done. The tracksaw has a new home, and I've successfully justified owning 4 3D printers. Now, should woodworkers keep making 3D printable tools? How the should I know? Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.